Distinguished colleagues, today we're holding the 24th session of the Commission on Modernization on the 24th of May. We've been working for 2 years. In other words, this is not the time to conclude any results, but time has passed and reforms in 5 priority areas have started of modernization. Most importantly, in each direction there are sets of specific projects which we all hope will be able to ensure Russia with priority. In some cases, if we do our best to obtain leading positions in the relevant markets. And I expect that the outcomes will be visible in the nearest months. This regards the energy technologies, energy saving and production in Russia of the quality, but not too expensive medicines, providing citizens of Russia and legal entities with services in electronic format, the access to the wideband internet and many other areas. Many projects have been launched by us with the government state participation. It's heartening that quite a deal of those are going on without public sector involvement, which shows the interest on the part of the private entrepreneurs. And finally, we try to improve on this subject our legislative basis. As of late, quite a few laws have been adopted. Perhaps you've forgotten some of them were being passed with difficulties, others easier. But many of those bills were initially reviewed by our commission. I'd like to inform all of you, incidentally, today I've signed a decree on setting up a new federal service on intellectual property, with giving this agency the patents of fabric and dispersing the authorities accordingly in the government. And I hope with the renovation of this service, or should I say other services work in this area in the government, will be more sensible. The problems in our country are many. Some of them incidentally have become evident because of the fact that we are dealing with the modernization projects together with you. We're trying to tackle some of them promptly. Others, regrettably, take months to address. The tempos of this transfiguration has to be increased. Today's session of the Commission is dedicated to new technologies and methodologies in child health care. This subject matter is not incidental, and the utilization of the modern technologies and modern medicines, medical equipment is a real chance in dealing with hard curable diseases, most importantly restoration of health, saving life of children. On several occasions we have discussed the questions having to do with the protection of health of children, preventing diseases. This subject was also in the center of several meetings I had this month with doctors, non-profit and church organizations, parents of incapacitated children. All of these meetings were quite substantial and emotional sometimes, and stemming from them there were decrees and instructions given to the agencies and ministries. Most difficult questions were under discussion. Once again, I'd like to emphasize that solution of these questions relates to our mobility. While meeting with public organizations who are dealing with kids patients, I've noticed that far from many territories are under control of the leaders and managers. In Moscow, in St. Pete, that's the case. But in other places where I ask those people in the meeting, representatives of those public organizations, for them it's easier to meet the president than their own governor. That's a shame. And I'd like to see to it that the administration would check it out, how these instructions are followed through and how subjects of federation respond to those instructions. First and foremost, we like to pay attention to the fact that we need to ensure children with efficient medicines, modern as it were, and safe too. And naturally, in doses relevant for the age group of children. Our pediatry doesn't possess the necessary arsenal of the officially permitted drugs. This is one of the problems. Therefore, many pediatric doctors have to take risks when in their practice they use non-registered medicines, or which is perhaps even worse, to defer treatment for undefined terms. Therefore, we need to change this situation, bearing in mind the practice elsewhere in the world. Incidentally, according to WHO data, for 3/4 of children diseases, there are no pediatric drugs, I'd like to emphasize. According to our Academy of Medical Science, up to 90% of medicines prescribed to newborn are not registered for this age group. They're just adults' drugs which are used there. Besides, we need to create vaccines for dangerous, infectious, communicable diseases, and technology of the acknowledged medicines and production on commercial basis of these ready-made vaccines. Second, that's about personnel for children hospitals. I'm not mentioning the point that, of course, they need to be highly professional. Besides, there is a problem of modern equipment, and I hope that partially it will be tackled in the frameworks of regional programs of modernization of healthcare. Currently, these programs are being implemented, and naturally you need to improve the production of domestic medical technologies which will not differ from their foreign analogous equipment. It's not an easy question, certainly, but today we can find the specific mechanism. When I started to deal with this problem, which happened while I worked on the national project, National Health, 5 years ago, we virtually didn't produce anything on our own in medical equipment. What we manufactured then was quite mediocre in quality, and even by it looked worse than foreign products. Over these 5 years, we have moved things forward quite a bit, and many samples of our medical equipment are along the lines of the standards of international equipment. But the problem is pricing. I've taken a look at several samples. They cost a lot of money. Currently, I don't want to cite these figures. Obviously, if our medical technology, our samples will continue to be produced with such price tag, they will be always losing to their foreign analogs. I'd like to see to it that in the result of our today's deliberations, we will work out the list of medicines and medical equipment which should be used in pediatric treatment, and proposals should be made on such manufacturing. It is also necessary very shortly to review the question on adjustment of national calendar of preventive vaccination. A few words concerning development of nuclear medicine. We've taken a look at this subject in openings, and the main work on the map of project of development of nuclear medicine in Russia has been completed. Today it is necessary to decide through which sources and when it will be financed, and also to define the scale of such project. And finally, concerning the development of highly technological medical equipment and innovative medicines. This project, it is extremely important to involve foreign partners in it, the leading foreign companies, and the relevant high learning schools. It's also important to set up the necessary laboratories and enterprises to use those mechanisms which I've launched with regards to the so-called offset deals. Great part should be played here by the innovative medical projects which should be implemented in the frameworks of various medical technological parks, and also necessarily in Skolkovo. Let's start our work today.